Welcome back to part 11 of the Ultimate Metroidvania Tier List. My name is Luke, the Metroidvania Guru, and if this is your first time here, hey, thanks, I appreciate it. As this is the 11th installment of the tier list, I'll be brief with what's going on here. I have a randomized picker, it picks 3 games, and then I talk about those games. So if you're looking at this tier list right now and you're like, hey, where's this game, or hey, where's that game, that's why they haven't been picked yet. So I promise I will do my best to get every single game on here. I just am, kind of taking my sweet time because I want to talk about these games in length. Sometimes before I get started, I do some amendments. I take a look at the list. I take a look at your all's feedback, and I try to adjust things. I haven't gotten a whole lot of feedback as of lately on this, so I'm not going to do any amendments this time around, but I know there are a few on my radar that I'd really like to move, but eventually I'll just have to replay those games because I just, I can't remember everything 100%, but yeah, I'd like to take a look at some of these games to replay them and adjust, but I'm just not there yet. That's why I rely on everyone's feedback because, again, I'm just one guy. I could, miss something and you all can remind me, and then that can greatly affect where I place it on the tier list. And just like any other tier list, I'm creating it to really help people that are getting into the Metroidvania genre, or people that are, MV enthusiasts, but they just don't really know how to prioritize what games they want to play before others, and so that's kind of the goal with this. All right, I think I talked enough. Let's get into our first game of this episode. All right, and our first game is GrimValor, or GrimValor. I don't really know how to say it. I just say GrimValor. So what is GrimValor? Well, you play as a nameless warrior who's been tasked by royal order to investigate why monsters are no longer staying in their cursed monster land and are now crossing the border to the unmonster land. It's a pretty basic setup. There's a whole lot of Souls-likeness to the game, although it's not a Souls-like at all, but it does borrow a lot of Souls-like stuff, and we'll get into all that. But yeah, just take your typical Souls-like setup narrative or whatever, and that's basically what GrimValor is. There was a kingdom, it was awesome, something happened, it got cursed, it's no longer awesome, and now monsters are hurting people or whatnot, and the main character has to go figure out why it's no longer awesome, what got it cursed, and how can we fix this thing. That's like basically every Souls-like game ever. Alright, with the setup out of the way, what kind of things do we like and not like about GrimValor? So we're going to start with the pros. First pro I have here is combat. I think the combat in this game it's fine. It's kind of goofy. You really only get like one attack. You get a couple attacks. You can equip a couple of weapons, but really, let's say you want to do the light attack. You can just hold the button and your warrior will just keep slashing like infinitely. It's goofy and it's kind of funny and it's fine. It's cool. It's silly, but I liked it. But yeah, you can equip 2 different weapons, one for light attacks and one for heavy attacks, which is kind of odd, really, because it's not like I can swap weapons. I just have one weapon relegated to my light attack, and the other one is relegated to the heavy attack, and so the weapon that's relegated to the heavy attack can't do light attack weapon. So it's not like you're switching weapons on the fly. You just have a light attack weapon and a heavy attack weapon. It's kind of weird. Like I said, with light attacks, you can just hold the light attack button and then you'll just continue moving forward, swiping and stuff like that. I'm going to refer to the main character or the protagonist as a she, because I played as the female character, so you'll hear me say she moving forward, but you can choose either gender if you want. So yeah, hold the light button down and she'll just like continue moving forward and slashing. It's super funny looking. The other attack, the heavy attack, is a little different. Of course, it's slower and stronger, but also it requires energy to use, and you can do certain things with it. You can do like an up slash, you can do like a down, you can do a ground pound, which we'll get to, but yeah, each one requires energy, so you can't just use your heavy attacks as much as you want. Unlike light attacks, where again, you just literally hold the button and you just slash and keep slashing until you let go. The next pro I have here is that platforming in this game is basic, but it's very fluid. Like, the level design is pretty boxy and claustrophobic, so there's not a whole lot of challenge to the platforming, but it feels good to do the platforming that's here. The main character, she controls just very, very well. And I know I may have this in my pros later on down this list, but one of the things that I think is a pro in this game is just traversal and how fluid it feels. When I say traversal, I mean traversal abilities. Your main character starts out pretty much with everything right out the gate that they need. They get a double jump. She gets like an infinite air dash, which is hilarious. and a wall run and a wall jump. So getting all of that right out the gate just means that like there's not a whole lot of utility based progression in the game. There's really only one ability you get that unlocks progression, and that's like the ground pound, where you jump in the air, hold down, and then hit the heavy attack button. As you can imagine, this breaks up any kind of debris or junk in the way, and you can then move down towards the floor or whatever. It's pretty basic stuff. But yeah, since you're pretty much given every ability out the gate, level design is molded around being able to do all this ridiculous stuff. And the most ridiculous of the stuff is the infinite air dash. There's no stamina at all in this game. That's why when I said it's kind of like a Souls-like, really in a lot of other facets, but just not in combat. Combat's really kind of its own thing. Not that it's super unique or anything, but it's a far cry from being a Souls-like. But anyway, without stamina, you can just jump into the air, and if you're high enough, you can just keep pressing the dash button, and you'll just dash through the air, essentially flying. Like you'll like fall down in increments. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, you can essentially fly through these levels if the level design facilitates it. It's just weird. But yeah, that's what I have to say about platforming. I think I hit a bunch of different pros talking about that, and that's okay. I'll skip those as we go through. But yeah, the platforming, it's not bad. It is not unique. It's not memorable. Level design is very boxy, but man, does your character move very fluidly and is just fun to control. Next pro I have here is probably the most addictive part of the game, and that's its leveling. Its leveling is very Dark Souls, and where you collect this currency from fallen enemies. I guess they're souls. I don't know what it is. There's soul shards in the game, but those are not the currency to level up. That's used for updating or upgrading your weapons in a blacksmith. We'll get that in a sec. But you collect this other stuff, I'll just call them souls, from fallen enemies, and then you can go to the game's save point, which is basically its bonfire, and you can level up. And obviously, because it's going off the Souls-like formula, this currency could also be used in shops. And these shops, they sell things called trinkets. You can buy weapons from there. You can upgrade your Estus flask, which I think is called a mending flask in this game. But yeah, you can buy all kinds of stuff while you're in the shop. As for leveling, it's exactly what you would imagine from a Souls-like. You have the currency, you go up a level, you get a point that you can then add to a specific stat. And when you add a point to a stat, stuff increases. This stuff would be, like damage attack, how many trinkets you can hold. Trinkets, by the way, I haven't really talked about those yet. They're coming up. But basically, trinkets are just accessories that you can equip, and they do all kinds of things. I wouldn't say they're specifically like charms or relics, but they're kind of like charms or relics. They're just not as powerful, I would imagine, as charms or maybe they are. I honestly can't remember. But there's a specific stat. I think it's called focus. You can level that up, and it gives you more slots. I ended up having 8 trinket slots by the end of the game. I think I was level 22 by the end of the game. But yeah, I had 8 trinket slots by the end. I only had 7 trinkets, I think, something like that. I couldn't even fill it all up. Maybe I didn't do exploration very good, but I think I did do. I don't know. Well, yeah, I did, because the game keeps track of your progress as you move. I'll get to that in a second. Man, I'm all over the place on this silly game. I'm reining it back in, going back to leveling up. But yes, just like a Souls-like, you take that, the Souls currency, you throw it in there, you level up, put it in the stats. The stats, there's 4 stats total, and they really only focus on, increasing your trinkets, your critical hits, your stun resistance, and then like weapon damage and HP and stuff. These stats don't do anything when it comes to weapons. You know how like in a Souls-like, it's like you gotta have X amount of strength in order to wield this weapon, right? You don't do that in this game. I guess we can talk about weapons for a second. There are a lot of weapons in this game. I don't know if a lot is a correct term, but there's more than you would imagine from a game of this caliber. And there's different types of weapons too. There's a fist weapon, there's a short sword, there's an axe. Maybe that's it. I don't know. but yeah, there are different types of weapons. And of course, there's varying strengths with these weapons, varying speeds between each weapon. So it's kind of cool to find these different weapons and put them, whether you want them in the light attack or the heavy attack slot. And you can even improve these weapons at the blacksmith. These are those soul shards that I was talking about earlier. They're specifically called soul shards. You find them when you loot dead bodies and stuff as you're exploring. Then you take them to the blacksmith, and you can, make your weapon stronger. I mean, it's not mind blowing, but it's always, It's always appreciated. All right, moving on to the next pro. I brought up the map earlier. The map is fine. It looks okay. It's not the most helpful, but it does keep track of your completion within a specific area on the map. So I always appreciate that, knowing like, okay, I can go back here and there's still more things to do. I know not everyone likes that. I do. I don't think there's a toggle for it. So, I mean, I guess just know that happens. So yeah, its map is fine. It's not the greatest. It's actually split up into 5 acts, which are like the levels. But we'll talk about the act tabs in a little bit, definitely when we get to the cons. Next pro I have here is boss fights aren't bad. I remember a majority of the boss fights being kind of tanky, but I didn't think any of them were particularly bad. I didn't think any of them were like particularly challenging either. It was just not really memorable, but at the same time, I didn't find anything offensive. So it was fine. It was cool. My next pro is that there's lots of Souls-like elements without the crushing difficulty. That's kind of the big thing in this game. It's pretty simple, pretty easy game as long as you're, exploring, doing side. There's very few side quests in the game, but as long as you do them, you'll get some pretty cool stuff. Keep looting things, and you're going to be fine. But yeah, the way it tells its story, its setup, the leveling. There's a whole lot of like Souls-like stuff here, but it's not really a Souls-like. It just borrows a lot from the genre. I was actually calling the game a Souls-like light or diet Souls-like, but yeah, just know it does have the addicting stuff that Souls-likes do, but the difficulty is pretty low. Here's something I didn't mention earlier. This game is really fast-paced, and you see this especially when you're platforming, like running up walls, wall jumping, and then doing like an infinite air dash to go somewhere else, and then doing all kinds of other stuff. It's the attacks are fast. Like, this is a fast game, and I really appreciate that. The next pro is, I said the game's pretty addicting. I talked about that earlier, but it's just, collecting the loot, leveling up, killing stuff, just how fast everything kind of flows. It's impressive that, I haven't stated this yet, but this game, it started life out as a mobile-only game, and then it got ported to like the Switch. That's where I played it, was on the Switch. It might be on Steam and some other places, I don't know off the top of my head, but yeah, I played it on Switch, and it started as a mobile game. And as a mobile game, it's pretty solid stuff. It's a high-quality game. I'm not going to say it's like the best game you'll ever play or anything like that, but it's a competently made game. And it's pretty addicting. I loved playing it because it was just so fast, and you're leveling up and, doing all this stuff to upgrade and progress. It's pretty cool. And I might as well talk about this pro, is that the game, I beat it in like 6.5 hours. I think that's a pretty meaty game for a mobile game. Again, I played it on Switch, and, 6.5 hours for a quote-unquote Metroidvania. I put that in quotes because this game is not that much of a Metroidvania, but we'll get to that in the cons. But anyway, yeah, being at 6.5 hours, that's a pretty solid experience, especially with how fast the game moves. My next pro is that you have a dodge move in the game, you got your air dash, but when you're on the ground, it's just like a regular dash, right? But if you do it right when an enemy attacks, it does that near automata dodge, where it's like you move and then like projections of yourself move out too, just like how it does with 2B and whatnot. So yeah, it has the near automata dodge, and I just thought that was cool. Just wanted to mention it. The last pro I have here is that there's a New Game Plus. It's exactly what you would think a New Game Plus is. You start the game from the beginning, but you have all your equipment, and you have your stats and your level and stuff like that. That's one thing I failed to mention was the equipment in the game. I talked about the weapons and the trinkets, but there's also like armor you can get, so that's always cool. It increases your HP and stuff and gives you some other bonuses. So I love gear in games. I think most people do. Anyway, back to New Game Plus. Yeah, you get to keep all your gear and all your levels and stats and stuff like that, but it also mixes up the maps. And it adds new currencies to the game that upgrade your trinkets and your weapons. These currencies are called remnants, and I can't remember the other one. The other remnants are for the weapons, and then whatever the other currency was, maybe I'll throw it up on the screen for you. That helps you create. Oh, wait a minute. Whatever. I'm messing. I'll throw it up on the screen. But yeah, I guess the point what I'm getting to is the New Game Plus adds much more to the game than you would imagine. Of course, the bosses are harder. Everything is tankier. It's cool that you get brand new weapons and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a pretty solid New Game Plus experience. I didn't play all the way through it. Once you play through the game once, it's like I said, it's a fun game, but I don't think it warrants a playthrough. In my opinion, you may think otherwise, and that's perfectly fine. But I beat it in like 6.5 hours. I was like, okay, I'll just start the New Game Plus, see what it's about. And I was impressed, but not impressed enough to continue. That's it for the pros. Let's move to the cons. First con I have here are the graphics. I mean, you're seeing them on the screen right now. They are butt. Just straight up bad. Like it's you know, it's a muted color palette. Everything's boxy. Everything's like too angular. It's not the most impressively beautiful game you'll ever see. Again, I'm not huge into graphics. You've probably heard me say that a few times. Graphics are not a big thing for me, but I can still tell if a game is kind of ugly. And this game, pretty ugly. Its enemy designs are you know, they're okay. I don't know, the models just there's just a lot of this game that just kind of like screams generic or like low budget. So yeah, just not a whole lot to talk about there. You're looking at it. It's not a pretty game. Its animations are kind of butt too. Not all of them, like the attack animations look pretty good, but there's like some like the climbing animation when you're on a ledge, that looks really bad. Like I don't even think the character is even touching the ledge, and the movement just looks awkward. So yeah, not all the animation's bad, but there are some bad ones, man. Here's a big one, that the world isn't interconnected. And what I mean by that, I talked about it a little bit earlier. There's these act tabs within the world map, and these tabs, these acts, they are different levels. So if you want to go back to Act 1 when you're on Act 3, you can do that, but you have to go to the tabs and then flip over and then choose that level so you can then, you know, complete any side quests you may have missed. That's not very Metroidvania. Again, I look at Metroidvanias on a spectrum, and this hits kind of hard when it comes to ranking these things, because a true Metroidvania should be interconnected, not like a series of like levels or whatnot. And because I found this method of separating the levels through these tabs so weird, I didn't even know until the end of the game that I could go between the tabs at any time. I was literally on the final level, and then I realized, oh my gosh, I can actually go through these tabs and return to the first level. Wow, I wish I would have known that, because like near the end of the game, this isn't a spoiler really, but near the end of the game, you get rewarded for having completed side quests, and I didn't complete the very first side quest in the game because I didn't know I could just go back to it using these act tabs. But whatever, it's fine. And then my last con here is that, yeah, this game, it's not a very good Metroidvania. It is a fine enough adventure game, an action RPG game, if you will. But as a Metroidvania, it lacks a whole bunch. Exploration is again, it's compartmentalized within levels. You start pretty much with every ability you need, like double jump, infinite air dash, a wall jump, a wall climb, right? The only ability that you get that does any sort of like utility gated progression is going to be the ground pound. Other than that, you're just really just chugging forward. Again, this is a very linear game. Backtracking is, you know, you backtrack within the specific acts or levels, but you don't have to move back through the game in order to progress. Like you know, pretty much like I stated, I didn't even know I could return to Act 1 if I was on Act 4 already. So yeah, this game is technically a Metroidvania, but it is very, very, very much not a Metroidvania. Though it technically is. All right, that's the pros and the cons for GrimValor. What are my final thoughts? GrimValor is a competently made and surprisingly fun and addictive game, which surprised me because it started life as a mobile game. Shantae and the Seven Sirens did too, but we don't talk about that. I seriously had a blast with GrimValor, but it's not a great Metroidvania. The world isn't interconnected, and you basically have every single traversal move out the gate with maybe a couple instances of utility-gated progression. Plus, it's super ugly, or more aptly put, bland looking, but also kinda ugly. But if you're looking for a Souls-like light, or maybe a diet Souls-like, GrimValor is a pretty good time. All right, so now where would I put GrimValor on the tier list? I think it's pretty obvious, pretty simple. I'm looking at it, and it's not an F because, again, it is technically a Metroidvania, because it does do a lot of Metroidvania stuff. Let's plop it in F right now. It's not going to be an F. But yeah, it's just not a very strong Metroidvania candidate. It's definitely going in D. I would put it above Greek because Greek, I do not like Greek at all. It is just it is not my game. Beholgar, I think Beholgar is a better game than GrimValor when it comes to being a Metroidvania, so I'm good with right there. That's not too bad. There you go. I'm pretty comfortable with that. got ourselves GrimValor as a low D. And again, it's just is barely a Metroidvania. It has the one ability that gets you that utility gated progression you need to be a part of the genre. Now, just because it ranked so low doesn't mean it's a bad game. Matter of fact, I think GrimValor is a pretty decent game. At least it's better than Greek. But yeah, there you go, GrimValor, low D. Next up, we have 9 Years of Shadows.
Whoa, Europa, did you do all that just to hide your massive fart? It didn't work. You're disgusting.
I'm going to go ahead and plop a card up right here because I've done an analysis on 9 Years of Shadows. So if you want something to go pretty deep into it, there you go. So what's 9 Years of Shadows about? You play as Europa, a woman living in a cursed land devoid of color. On a quest to remove the curse, she finds its source in a spooky castle housing a pretty wicked-looking demon. Europa promptly gets stomped by said demon and miraculously gets saved by a tiny floating teddy bear in pajamas. That's literally the coolest sentence you're going to hear today. Anyway, the bear restores color in the castle, and now Europa and the bear must find and slay this demon to lift the world's curse. Alright, let's get into the pros. First pro I have is combat. I'm going to be real with you. Combat in this game is pretty dang basic, which, you know, it's fine when it's basic, but it does do some things that are kind of cool. As far as its basicness goes, it's really just, you get like a 3-hit combo. I think you can hold up during the last hit of your combo to do a different hit. There's a strong attack. You can shoot, like a sub weapon. It's like a I don't know, some sort of like beam particle thingy from the bear, and there's some armor swapping we'll get to, and another layer of it being like these I don't know, this aura around the enemies. Again, we'll get to that in a second. But the basics of combat are, again, for lack of a better term, very basic. It does build upon itself to create something kind of cool, but in the end, it never really evolves to be something super duper amazing or anything like that. But it's fine enough. I'll just move on to the next pro now, and we'll keep coming back to combat as I build on it with these other pros that we have here. But the next pro I have is life/mana system. I think it's technically called the light shield system. I can't exactly recall, but essentially you got your life, right? And your life is like a dot or two. I can't remember. I think you start out with like 2 dots, and I ended up getting like 1 or 2 more dots, which is just your HP. So every time you take a hit, you're going to lose a dot until you lose all your dots and you die. But what makes this interesting is that you have your kind of mana system, your light shield system. That's the light blue bar next to the dots in the top left corner. Think of it kind of like Sonic's rings, if you will. Every time you get hit, you lose a little bit of your light shield. Maybe you lose all of it. I don't think so. I think you lose a little bit. But as long as you have a little bit of light shield, you will not take damage directly to your life points. I guess now that I think about it, it's more like Halo than Sonic, but whatever. And I say Halo because you can actually regenerate your light shield. Regenerating, it's kind of weird. You have to kill enemies to regenerate it, or you have to use all of it, and then it will regenerate over time. But as long as you have a little bit left, it doesn't automatically regenerate. It's kind of weird, but it works. It's fine. But yeah, overall, I like it. It's a pretty cool system. You have, you got your life, you got your light shield, and what makes it kind of cool is there's a little bit of risk reward to this. Remember how I said the bear can shoot stuff? Well, it needs the light shield energy meter in order to shoot things. And so you can be at a safe distance and start shooting stuff, but it's going to take away your light meter, which then makes you vulnerable to hits. And that's kind of the risk reward. Again, I thought it was pretty cool. Next, we probably have the biggest gimmick to the game. Maybe the music's the biggest gimmick, but the armor, I would say, is the biggest gimmick. Europa gets, 3, 4, maybe more types of armor in the game. The last set you get is absolutely amazing. I don't want to talk about that. I think I might have talked about it in the spoiler section in my analysis. But yeah, I won't be doing spoilers. I don't think at all this episode. There's not a whole lot to spoil in any of these games. Oh snap, that's not true. I actually have some pretty big spoilers I want to talk about for this and Turbo Kid coming up. So yeah, stay tuned to that. My bad. But yeah, I will be having a spoiler section. So for anyone who hasn't played these games yet, don't worry, I won't be spoiling stuff. Anyway, back to the armor. Yeah, you get like, I don't know, there's Poseidon armor, I think Zeus armor, and then like a fire armor, Phoenix armor, I can't remember what it's called. And you can swap between these 3 or 4 pieces of armor. Sorry, I probably should have done a little bit more research on the game, but it's been a while since I played it. But anyway, you can swap between these armors on the fly, or they swap automatically depending on your environment. Okay, give me a second. I'm going to remember how many armors. There's a green armor set, there's a blue armor set, there's a red armor set, and the gold. There are 4 different pieces of armor, and then a 5th one you get as the final set. But we're going to stick with 4 right now. So yes, every piece of armor comes with a few things that you're going to need in order to do combat in this game, and platforming. As far as combat is concerned, each armor comes with like an aura, if you will, and these enemies have specific auras. Let's say an enemy has a blue aura. You equip the Poseidon armor and you do more damage because you guys have matching aura. And so that's kind of cool for combat. I like that a lot, and having to swap strategically which armor is going to be needed in order to attack. Well, not attack, just do much more damage. Then each armor set has different passives. Like the green armor lets you go into green environments. The red armor lets you, like explode on these things to jump higher. It's kind of weird. And then you can also like glide on like updrafts or something. And then the blue one lets you swim and stuff like that. But anyway, there's also forms for each armor. This is like the Poseidon armor lets you turn into a siren so you can swim more effectively and go up waterfalls and things like that. I don't want to spoil everything in the game, but yeah, so we got the aura aspect for each armor that helps you do more damage. Each armor has a passive that lets you get through certain aspects in the environment, and each armor has forms that you can then use to do some unique platforming. So as you can see, these armor sets are actually pretty integral to the game. The one thing that bugged me about the armor was that the armor swap automatically depending on the environment you're in. So you may be in one room that's like filled with poison, so you're the green armor, but then the very next room you go into is too hot, so you switch to the red armor. It does that automatically for you. So I don't know, I just thought that was kind of lame. I'd rather have the agency to figure that out myself. Again, it's not that big of a deal, but it was just something to think about. All right, next pro I have here is progression, specifically the armor upgrades. If you want to upgrade Europa in this game, you got to find like music notes, then you take those notes to this band or something, and they'll increase your light meter and your HP and stuff like that. Then there is like ancient like shards or something you get that you can use to empower your armor sets. So yeah, that was kind of cool. You progress by exploring, and you gather this material, take it back to the concert hall, and then they'll upgrade a bunch of stuff for you. I liked it. I thought it was pretty cool. My next pro is that this game has great pixel work, and it just has gorgeous art. And in the spoiler section, I plan on taking you guys to the Kickstarter page for this game, and you'll see the huge upgrade they did in the visuals. It's pretty freaking fantastic. But yes, the visuals in this game are outstanding. Absolutely love it. And the portraits for the characters look really, really great too. My next pro is Europa herself. I thought she looked really good. I thought she had a wonderful design. I thought all of her armor sets looked really cool. I don't know what it is. There's this there's something about this kind of like magical girl thing that I think is really, really interesting. I grew up on anime. I was really young. Sailor Moon was one of the first ones I watched. I watched Sailor Moon, Samurai Pizza Cats. They came on, and I really got into those. And of course, Dragon Ball Z came on Sundays. So those were probably the big ones that I watched growing up. But anyways, yeah, Europa kind of has this magical girl trope thing going on. They don't use it to the fullest extent, which is sad in my opinion, but the fact that that's kind of what they were going for, I appreciated it. And I would like to see more of Europa, to be quite honest with you, in the future if they make a sequel and really just dive deeper into this armor swapping thing. It's really kind of cool. Next pro I have here is Opino. That's the teddy bear. It's the floating teddy bear with the pajamas. I don't know what else to say other than that's just amazing. And you can like hug it too. That's how you get more light mechanic energy. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so yeah, that light meter up top, you can hug the bear and it'll refill it. That's the other way to refill it. So anyone who went directly to the comments and was correcting me on that one, I just want to let you know that I fixed it myself. But yeah, you can hug the bear in this game, and you can basically quote unquote heal yourself or replenish your light meter, which is really cool. My next pro is it's tough to say it's a pro because it's kind of a pro and a con. But basically, what I have in the pros here, I just put. Boss fights are a mixed bag. There are some bosses in this game that are really, really cool. The design is amazing. The fight itself is really cool, trying to memorize the moves and the best way to strategize and to take them down. And some are just larger than life. I remember the boss of the game actually being kind of tough and really just the best boss because it does what a good final boss should do. It makes you utilize everything you've learned within the game. So this final boss for 9 Years of Shadows is just incredible. It's a really good final boss. However, there are a lot of bosses that are just absolute just butt cheeks. Like it was just like they created this person and they didn't know what to do with them, so they just threw them in the game, gave them like 2 or 3 moves tops, and then some of these bosses are kind of boring. I remember specifically this boss that's like a gunslinger or something like that. He literally has like 1 or 2 moves. He just jumps around, shoots, ricochets some bullets, and then that's about it. It's kind of ridiculous. And I think, and this is just me talking, but I feel like this game takes less inspiration from Metroidvanias and more inspiration from like Mega Man and Mega Man X. You'll see that in some of the boss encounters where the bosses are pretty simplistic. They just kind of like have some jump around mechanics. They shoot or attack and do some things, and they just like rinse and repeat, kind of like how like Mega Man X bosses were. Those are the bosses you come up against. And you're like, yeah, this is antiquated, and it's not hitting it for me, man. But then you look at some of these other incredible bosses that are larger than life and doing all kinds of cool stuff. And yeah, it's just like there's this one boss that's like a chessboard or whatever, where these chess pieces are coming down on you. That's a pretty cool boss, and there are some really unique and awesome bosses in this game, but there seems to be equally the same amount of bosses that are just trash. So I'll put that as a pro and a con. Next pro I have are the paintings. The paintings in this game are kind of like Mario 64. You jump in them and it's a whole other level, right? Or because we're talking about Metroidvanias, I probably should have said like Portrait of Ruin, but whatever. These paintings are really just like, they're brand new levels and they house the form for the armor that you're wearing. For instance, if you find the Poseidon armor in this biome, you'll then find the painting that houses the siren form for that armor. And these paintings, they were pretty cool. They were very, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess platform focused, because they really wanted you to utilize the new form in the armor. And so you got to just do all kinds of real cool stuff when it came to platforming with your new ability, your new armor, your new form. And honestly, there's one, I think it's the Phoenix form is what it's called. Whatever the red armor is, you get the Phoenix form or something with that one. That entire painting is amazing. That painting level to get that Phoenix form, that's the highlight of the game, in my opinion. There's so much cool stuff. Even the boss within that painting is absolutely top tier. It's just, I remember so much from that particular painting. That entire, the platforming was fantastic. The fights were fantastic. The boss was fantastic. It was a really huge highlight in the game. All right, moving on. What's my next pro say? It says lots of optional side content, but it got formulaic. Okay, let me break it down. A lot of this game felt formulaic. You go to a biome, you would search for the armor, you'd search for the painting to get the armor's form, you would find a side character, an NPC that would give you a side quest, and you would have to typically kill an optional boss in order to help this NPC out. And this NPC would then go to the concert hall. And that was pretty much what happened in every single biome you went to. Like, you get there, find armor, find painting, find NPC, do optional side quests, kill optional boss. Boom, boom, boom. It's just over and over and over again. I didn't hate it, and there was a lot of optional side questy stuff you could do. But like I said, it got real formulaic. So I guess it's kind of a pro and kind of a con. I guess I kind of do that a lot with this game. My bad. And my last pro is that this game is relatively short. It took me about 5 hours to beat it, which, you know, I don't mind short MVs like that, especially if I had, like, you know, some fun with the game. And I did. I had a whole lot of fun. I don't know if I'd say a whole lot of fun, but I did enjoy my time with 9 Years of Shadows. I thought it was a pretty good game, and a runtime of 5 hours. I know some people might look and they go, but I thought it was okay. All right, on to the cons. First one I have here is that this is a pretty straightforward game. It's very linear. That's not to say there's not backtracking in the game. You certainly can backtrack. You do not have to. It's not necessary. In fact, there's very little instances where backtracking will reward you. I know there's like this central, I hesitate to call it a hub area, but essentially how the map is built, you have like the central like area of the castle, and there are elevators, so many elevators in this game, that take you to the different biomes. And so the central area, I'll just call it the hub for now, but yeah, you can backtrack to the hub once you get specific abilities and find like a node or two or something like that. There's just not a whole lot to backtrack for. Like, the backtracking is so sparse in this game, I almost feel like it being a Metroidvania is an afterthought. I don't think that's the case. We'll take a look at the Kickstarter together in the spoiler section, but there's just not a whole lot of necessary backtracking you got to do in this game, and it just makes the game feel a little too linear. My next con is that there is a very low enemy variety in this game. Like, I don't know, criminally low is what I would say, but it's pretty low. There's like, you take a look at the bestiary, and it looks like there's a whole bunch of enemies, but really it's like there are 3 main enemies in the game that you're going to see in every single biome. They're like these, I don't even know how you would describe them. I'll just say like demon type enemies with armor. And there's like 3 of them. There's like a big one, a medium one, and a small one, or a smaller one, or a regular size one, whatever. And what they do to overcompensate for the lack of enemy variety, they just put the aura over them. So here's the regular enemy, right? Well, here it is. Without the aura, here it is with a red aura, a blue aura, a green aura, you know, whatever. And they do that with so many of the enemies to kind of, it looks like it's inflating its enemy count. But yeah, there's like, I'm not saying there's not enemy variety in the game. It's just, it is low. My next con is exploration was boring. Very few instances of necessary backtracking. Yeah, I already kind of talked about that. Another thing is it's like, the exploration feels like uneventful. There are times, like the game hides lore from you for some reason. Like, you can bust open a false wall, and then there's like a big, huge tablet you can read, and it gives you like some lore to the game. And it's like, okay, I don't know. It just seemed like a desperate attempt to make the game's story feel like a Souls-like. I hate to keep bringing up Souls-like stuff, but you know how like in Souls-like, they like to hide their lore, and you got to read item descriptions and stuff like that. And maybe hiding the lore isn't what Souls-likes do. They just it's just not a priority to tell a straightforward story. You have to hunt and search, right? I feel like 9 Years of Shadows was trying to emulate that sort of, but just it was done kind of lazily. And I hate to say that because this game, it's not a lazy game at all. It's a fine game. It looks wonderful, and I do like this game. But this aspect of like hiding these lore tablets from you was just kind of like, all right, man, I see what you're trying to do. I just don't think it's very effective, and it's kind of cheap. All right, moving on. I know that sounded kind of mean. I apologize, but it's just, you know, I'm calling them as I see them. But anyway, next kind of have here is that the narrative is just a whole bunch of wasted potential. Gosh, there's a lot to unpack with that one. I think the biggest issue I had with the narrative and the setting for 9 Years of Shadow is that there's just a general disconnect to the world. Like, in the opening, it kind of sets things up by letting you know, hey, this world sucks, right? And things are bad, and right? You know what I'm saying? So they do their best to set it up, but then you don't feel it really in the game. Like, it starts out in black and white, and then it becomes colorful. That's kind of cool, but like, I don't know. I just, like, you never see the outside world. You're stuck in this beautiful castle the entire time with all these bright colors. You don't really get to see the suffering from the denizens of this world, right? There's just a whole lot of telling, zero showing. And anytime they try to show something, it's not very effective. For instance, Dreythus, that's the name of a character in this game. You find this NPC in like an orphanage. And there's supposed to be this like really rich history between Europa and Dreythus, but they never really explore it. It's really just kind of implied or alluded to. But yeah, like, you're supposed to kind of feel something between these two characters, and you really don't. And it's not like, I don't think they were lovers or anything like that. I think like Dreyfus was her mentor or whatever, or trained her to fight or something like that. And now here he is doing evil stuff because of course, but I don't know. It didn't hit. And I think it's just because they didn't show anything. They just told you all this stuff and it didn't work out. So like, I really did like the lore in this game. I found all the lore tablets. I was reading all the stuff. I thought it was interesting, but it failed to really grip me because I just didn't see anything. I don't know. I think I might dive a little bit deeper into it in my analysis. So I'm just going to leave it at that at this point. So if you're interested, you can go watch that. But yeah, it it seems like there's a lot of great stuff here. And it was just like not done well. And I think I know the reason why. And we'll talk about that in the spoilers if you stick around for that. But yeah, there's a lot of dropped content, man. This game is completely different than what it was supposed to be or what was promised. But we'll get on all that. So, all right, moving on. Next con might be a little controversial, but I have the music. This game was being sold by like its music, and I don't understand why. And this could just be my inexperience or my ignorance on music and music theory in general, but like I thought the music in this game was okay. Nothing really stuck out. I don't remember anything from the game. I did like it as I played the game. I thought it made a really great atmosphere, but I definitely didn't see it as a selling point to the game. And like, I know they were using music, this conceit of music to heal the world, and you find these music notes to increase your stats and stuff. I totally get that. And they even like talked about how like the music in this game is done at a specific hertz, and that hertz that it's in heals people or something like that. I don't know. Again, I'm very ignorant in all this stuff. We'll take a look at it in the Kickstarter page there in the spoilers. But it's just I don't know, man. I just felt it was very pretentious. I don't think they did it very well or whatever. And I can accept that, and maybe I'm just too stupid to really get it, but it didn't really do it for me. And maybe it's because I didn't emphasize it enough or didn't do anything with it. I think in my analysis of this, I even talked about how they could have utilized music better to make it stronger within the theme of the game. I don't want to dive into all that. You can take a look at that if you're interested. But yeah, I just don't think. I guarantee they knew what they wanted to do with the music theming in this game, and things happened. They had to cut stuff. I guarantee that's what happened. But anyway, yeah, the music, I don't hate it. I dug it. I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was all that great. There were some really big names that are attached to this game music-wise. They had Michiru Yamane from Castlevania Symphony of the Night. They had Maname Matsumi from Mega Man. And then they also had Norihiko Hibino from Metal Gear Solid 2. I'm not too familiar with his work, but it's interesting and great that they had these like kind of like more legendary composers in this game. They even made them NPCs in the game. I want to say Hibino was the blacksmith, I think, that like increased your armor stats and whatnot. And then Matsumi and Yamane, I think, were like the ladies that were up on the stage that increased your HP and your light shield meter or something like that. So yeah, all that is really cool. I just wish it was I don't know, utilized better. I don't know. I'll shut up about it. I feel like I'm just more ignorant to it than anything. If anyone wants to comment and tell me that the music is amazing and give me a reason why, I'd love to hear it. I'm willing to be educated. My next con is there's a really obtrusive Kickstarter backer section in the game. This is a real pet peeve for me. I cannot stand when the verisimilitude of a video game is completely shattered by something like a Kickstarter backer section. I'm not saying those things shouldn't be in the game because obviously they were promised to the backers, but I wish there were more classy ways, I guess, for lack of a better term, more classy ways to show these off. So anyways, let me tell you what they do in 9 Years of Shadows, and let me tell you what I think are more classy ways of doing this, more classier examples. So in 9 Years of Shadow, like really the final like stretch of the game where you're going to finally face down the final boss, you have to climb this tower, if you will, and the entire climb is just Kickstarter backer statues and paintings and stuff like that, and you're forced to go through it, and it just absolutely sucks the wind out of the tension of the game. It's just goofy, it's silly, and like this is the climax. You're climbing the tower to get to this wicked demon that kick the crap out of you at the beginning of the game. But first, I got to look at all this silly stuff about people's cats and crap. It's absolutely just, like I said, it just sucks the wind out of the tension. I hated it so much. So let me give you some examples of some Kickstarter-backed games that do it a little more, have a little more class, if you will. I think Hollow Knight did it pretty well. You have those that area with all the tombstones. That's pretty cool, and there's actually stuff to do in it while you're there. As you're ascending in 9 Years of Shadows, there's nothing to do. You just go to the top and then fight the boss of the game after going through all this stupid crap. In Hollow Knight, you get to, read all these people's tombstones, and you can actually collect some stuff with the Dream Nail and stuff like that. Kind of cool. And then Hollow Knight also has like a super secret area that you can find too. So that was awesome as well. Then let's talk about Turbo Kid, which is the game I'll be bringing up here in just a few moments. In Turbo Kid, there are some pretty out-of-the-way areas where you can find a couple of Kickstarter backer areas. So you have to go out of your way to find them, and then when you find them, it's pretty interesting. Like, one is like a bunch of skeletons, but the other one, I don't want to spoil it, but the other area is so freaking hilarious. So yeah, there you go. 2 examples of being classy while inserting these Kickstarter backer areas in a game. I know this might seem nitpicky, but really it bugs the crap out of me. I remember when I was playing Sea of Stars, and they have a very intrusive time when they bring in their Kickstarter backer, like temple or whatever. I get it, it's brief, but it's just enough to just shatter the verisimilitude of the game, and it just takes me out, and I just absolutely hate it. And it's really egregious in 9 Years of Shadows because it's right before the boss of the game. Like, all the tension just sucked out of the climax. Just terrible. And I'll just go ahead and wrap things up by talking about my last con here, and that is that this game overall just felt generic despite its awesome character designs and music and visuals. It's hard to explain really because like it looks really good, but man, does it feels generic as you play it. Again, I can't really articulate it in words, I don't think. I've tried my best. I can't, just because it looks really, really good and unique. But when you actually play it, it doesn't feel unique, I guess is the best thing I can say. All right, this is your spoiler warning. We're about to hit spoilers section now. So if you want to fast travel to my final thoughts on 9 Years of Shadows, you can do that by clicking to this timestamp. All right, this is the Kickstarter page for 9 Years of Shadows. I don't really know if this is kind of like a spoilers thing, but really I'm just going to talk about what the game had promised, what it was going to do, and then kind of tell you what actually ended up happening. So yeah, this could be spoilers. That's why I decided to put it in the spoiler section. So one of the first things I want to point out here is this boss right here. He looks really cool, and he looks very menacing. He looks very important. Like, he was going to be a huge part of the game. And then when you actually play the finished product, he just randomly shows up and you beat him with no fanfare at all. He's a nobody. So I don't know. It just seemed like they had a lot they were going to do with him, and a lot of stuff got cut. So he ended up just being like a sprite they had, and they were like, oh, we're still going to use him. But yeah, he's not important at all. Moving on, here's the visuals I was talking about. Take a look at these visuals. They do not look good at all. They look very generic. So the update to the visuals is noticeable to say the least, and was a great improvement. Okay, so here's where the final product really deviates from what was promised. So we're taking a look at the story, and if you look at the second paragraph here, I'm going to scroll down. It talks about how Europa was supposed to go to this orphanage. So the orphanage is in the final product, but it's basically just there. There's not a whole lot that's really done with it. It's just like a biome that's relatively empty, if I remember correctly, and there's not a whole lot of story or anything around it. It's just kind of, like I said, there. But originally, it was supposed to be that you would go into these orphans' dreams. So if we look here, it says, equipped with little else than her parents' mementos, her task is daunting. Venture inside the missing orphan's memories to vanquish the curse that has been tormenting the people and restore peace to the lands. That sounds really cool. Like this. I imagine this castle is basically like just the shattered memories that have manifested from these orphans, right? And so that would have added so much great biome diversity and just a much more interesting plot. But it looks like that got cut, which is unfortunate. And here's where things were really kind of, I guess resources were getting tight, or deadlines were really choking them or something like that. But when it comes to the atmosphere section, this is where we start seeing things get cut like pretty freaking hard. So we're looking at the second paragraph here. We're talking about the settings and things that you will explore while you're playing 9 Years of Shadows. And we got the Far Orient, a sunken cathedral, the city of London, and even Mexico City during the Revolution. And some of the places you will visit through magical portals that transport you to playable memories of the missing children. This obviously did not happen in the final game. So we're going to scroll down and you'll see, like, look at all these concepts. Like even in like one of the early trailers, you see this this underground. This was, I guess, is the sunken cathedral, and you see, like, I thought it was Atlantis because there's like mer people there. But yeah, like what was promised from this game looked really, really amazing. So I'll throw up that initial trailer as well, so you can see the game actually in motion and some of the things that were promised. But yeah, a lot of it was not delivered from Halberd Studios when it comes to 9 Years of Shadows. Now, I'm not trying to be mean, or I'm not calling them out or anything like that, because this happens. Like, even with Turbo Kid, we're going to go over Kickstarter stuff with them as well. They didn't, I don't want to say they didn't deliver on what they promised, but things were cut or things were shifted, and that's perfectly normal when it comes to the creative process. So I'm not sitting here, I'm not trying to be mean or anything like that, but I think it is interesting to take a look at, hey, look what this game was supposed to be. Look how it changed. And then when you take a look at 9 Years of Shadows, it almost feels like it was supposed to be a whole other game. Like for Turbo Kid, again, we're going to talk about Turbo Kid here in a minute. Looking at the stuff that they had to shift around and move, it didn't fundamentally affect the end product. But 9 Years of Shadows, it ended up being a completely different game. So you can imagine that I was a little disappointed with the final product. So I'm very hesitant on Halberd Studios' next project, which is Mariachi Legends. That game looks fantastic, but like I said, with 9 Years of Shadows, I was a little disappointed with the actual final product. Okay, and now my final thoughts on 9 Years of Shadows. Despite some of my harsher criticisms, I like 9 Years of Shadows. There's obvious missed potential, and its by-the-books basic Metroidvania approach doesn't do a whole lot to make it stick out from the saturated market. Its linearity and largely uneventful and formulaic exploration does little to excite hardened Metroidvania enthusiasts. But that doesn't mean there isn't something good here. That light shield system is actually pretty neat, and the presentation is good stuff. Now, where would I put 9 Years of Shadows? Let's see. Let's move it here. It's definitely not an F. I'll tell you that right now. Is it a D? No, it's higher than a D, that's for sure. It's pretty good. I would say it's average at least, so I think a C. I don't think it's a B, but I think it's a C. And if I had to choose, let's see. I'm gonna go thinking here. Yeah. Gosh, I don't know. That's, yeah, I'll put it there. It does everything decently. It doesn't do anything excellently. Everything it does is pretty mediocre, pretty average, bland at best, except for presentation's really good. But yeah, I'm thinking like a mid C for 9 Years of Shadows. Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. Yeah, like I've said, like probably 1,000 times at this point, 9 Years of Shadows it's a fine game. It is very mediocre. It doesn't really do a whole lot of what it promised, in my opinion. At least taking a look at the Kickstarter stuff, it promised one thing, delivered another, and what it delivered it wasn't exceptional. It's just a bland kind of generic Metroidvania that feels more like it was trying to be like a Mega Man X, if anything. But I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to belabor the point. I just think this is it's an okay game. It's fine. They did a good job. I'm rooting for Halberd Studios to kill it with Mariachi Legends. So let's cross our fingers. Give them all the best possible vibes. Let's go, guys. And last up, we have Turbo Kid. This is one of the weird things about this series is, I do everything randomly on it. I just put it in the picker, and it just sucks when a game that I'm currently working on gets picked So I was working on an analysis for Turbo Kid, and then all of a sudden it got picked by the picker. And when that happens, I'm like, oh no, I gotta get this done first, because I want to get the analysis out before the before the tier list, because I don't like them being too close together. But if that happens, I try to get the analysis out first, and it didn't happen. The same thing happened with Alice Escaped. I think I actually ended up doing the tier list on that one before I actually did the analysis. But I don't know, it's just always awkward. It's like, oh, I'm working on both at the same time. So yeah, that's what happened with Turbo Kid. Anyway, so what is Turbo Kid? Well, Turbo Kid's the video game sequel to Turbo Kid the movie. You play as Turbo Kid, the turbo glove-wielding hero of the wasteland, a world decimated by an apocalyptic event that's left the land pretty much destroyed. Right out the gate, the kid falls into an area called Middle Waste, and the only way to get out is to open an enormous door locked by 4 weapon chips. Find these chips, and the kid can be on his merry way. Of course, there are obstacles in the way, like punks and a cult and stuff like that, but that's pretty much the gist of the story, or at least its setup. Alright, let's start with the pros. First up I have is that this is a run-and-gun Metroidvania. Always like proper run-and-gun Metroidvanias. In my analysis, I poke fun of how Rebel Transmute and Astronaut just have like these little, crappy bullets that just like go very short distance and then dissipate. I hate that crap. That's not like how it is in Turbo Kid. You shoot and the plasma bullet goes across the screen. It's fantastic. Now, I know run and gun Metroidvanias aren't rare or anything like that. I just really like them. They're probably what I prefer over Melee, but maybe that's a hot take. It just depends how great the combat is, and typically you can't really mess up a run and gun, in my opinion. I don't know, I could be wrong. I just really like them. Another pro I have here is that this game is a power trip. I talk about it in my analysis already, but really it's just like you're so overpowered in this game against all the enemies that you're fighting, bosses notwithstanding, but it's just like they have no chance against you, and it just feels great. They just charge up a shot and blast them from across the screen. There's just nothing they can do. It's great. The next pro I have is the bike. I don't know if I really talked about the bike too much in my analysis. I know I brought it up, but I really like it. And one of the things that I said is, what's cool about this bike is that you can summon it at will. There's this teleportation like thing that happens in the game where you can just, summon your bike and do what you got to do with it and jump off of it and don't have to worry about it again. I love that aspect. That seems silly, but I like not having to, know where my bike is. And busting out your bike at any time is just freaking fantastic. You can use it as a weapon. You can use it, obviously, to go up verts and use half pipes and stuff like that to reach other areas. It's really cool and a lot of fun to use. And the fact that you can just bust it out at any time, it helps with traversal. It's basically your dash, essentially, but it's just such a cool way to implement something like that. You can get, I guess, like bike kits in the game. I didn't talk about it in my analysis. I didn't think it was that important, but yeah, you can get bike kits in the game, and I think to get those, you have to do so well in something else I didn't talk about in my analysis, and that was like these mini games throughout the game that you find. There's one where you race, and the top time you can get will get you a bike kit, and then there's also ones where you do tricks, because there's tricks in the game. I didn't bring those up at all in the analysis. It's just not important. You jump in the air, you do a trick, and when you land, you get a speed boost, which is great for the mini games, but like through the actual game that you play, it's not that big of a deal. So yeah, there are these mini games where there's this half pipe and you have to do tricks as you get air, and the reward for getting the most points gets you a bike kit. You can also get like health upgrades and stuff as you play these mini games, but really it's the bike kit you want. And then once you get enough bike kits, you go to this NPC, and then this NPC gives you something. I mean, it's kind of cool. I just the more you can use the bike, the better, in my opinion. And I liked the mini games, just didn't really bring them up in the analysis because they're not all that important. Next pro I have is the narrative. I love the narrative in this game. It is absolutely fantastic. I got a little sub thing here that says micro stories. And what that means, there's an overarching narrative to Turbo Kid that's going on. And there's objectives and stuff that you go towards that narrative. And as you're playing through the game, you will enter these biomes. And when you enter these biomes, there are these micro stories that you're going to engage with that I just thought was really cool. And what made them really cool is not that they were interesting. I mean, they were. But it was also that they were kind of microcosms to the narrative that was being told, the overarching narrative that was being told throughout this game. And when I say that, I'm talking about the theming and the messaging of the game. I go over it in my analysis. You can take a look at that. But it just it's just such a fantastic narrative, and these biomes with their cool little micro stories just reinforce the messaging. It's pretty slick stuff. I liked it a lot. It was really good and adds a lot to the game. Another thing that adds a lot to the game is the atmosphere. There's just, you know, you're looking at the game right now, and it's got this pixelated like look to it. It's kind of distorted, but it still looks really, really great. I say this as a child who grew up with these graphics, so it looks great to me. I can imagine younger gamers looking at it and be like, ooh, what's going on there? But for us older gamers that grew up with the Atari and the NES, we take a look at the graphics like that, and of course we get like, you know, the feels, those nostalgic feels that we like a lot. And yes, absolutely, Turbo Kid gives us those feels with these graphics. And it's not just the graphics, it's the music, it's the sound design, it's just the over-the-top kind of like silliness to it, like the journal entries that with the crowns and stuff like that. There's just a whole lot to like here. And you know, the music, man, the music. The individual who made this, his name is Lemato, I do believe is how you pronounce it. I don't really know, but I took a look at his stuff on Bandcamp and some of his other works, and I really dug what this dude's putting down. So yeah, it really meshes well with the aesthetic that is Turbo Kid, both in the movie and in this game. It just, gosh, I don't really know what to say about it. I just really like it a lot. It works so well. And this brings us to the environments. I love the environments in this game. There's not a whole lot. And so when I say that, there's not a lot of biomes in this game. We'll talk about that in the cons. But what's here looks great. And specifically, I'm talking about the backgrounds. Like, this is a desolate world, but you don't feel very isolated because there's always something going on in the backgrounds. You go to the junkyard, you got robots and machinery working in the back, digging up something. You go to the skate park and you see punks and skaters doing stuff in the background. Maybe they're goofing off or maybe they're tweaking because of the drugs in the game. There's just a lot of things to drink in and look at as you're playing this game. It just made the world feel that much more real and that much more alive. I just thought it was fantastic. The next pro I have here are the boss fights. There's not a lot in this game. I think there's like 4, and I said 4.5 because the final boss, you kind of do like a fight, and then there's a more substantial fight, and so that less substantial fight I just counted as a half. I don't know, I'm just being facetious, but there's about 4 bosses in the game, I think. I don't know. It's not a whole lot, but what is here is pretty good. The lady, her name is I guess Queen Beatrice. She is the boss in the skate park biome. I didn't particularly find her fight very good, and I think it's because I was supposed to go to that biome first. I don't really know what the actual like critical path is in this game. It's pretty open. You start the game and you have to find Naomi, right? But before you find Naomi, it's like, oh, you got to find your machete, and you got to find your bike, and you got to find your power glove, and stuff like that. So you got to find all of your stuff, or maybe you already have your power glove. I can't remember. Oh, you have your power glove. You don't have your charged shot. Yeah, that's what it is. And so you got to find all of that stuff. Talk to Naomi. And then she gives you your bike or something, and then you learn how to teleport with your bike or something like that. But yeah, so the opening to the game is pretty good. It makes you go left. It makes you go right. It acclimates you to the basic environment before letting you go wild. And basically, I don't think there's anything stopping you from going anywhere. Like, once you have the bike, you can go to any biome, I do believe. I could be wrong. There's the lightning dome. I think you might need the air dash for that, but I'm pretty sure I've seen people play this game and get to the lightning dome before getting the air dash. So yeah, this game, it's pretty open once you get the bike. And so if I had to guess the critical path, I don't know, I would say you go to the skate park, then you go to the junkyard in the mall, and then the sewer, and then the lightning dome. I don't know. I have no idea what it is. I went junkyard, then I went skate park, then sewer, then lightning dome, and then the last biome. And I can pretty much say that I really think the junkyard is not supposed to be the first biome you go to. I did, and it was fine. I got everything I needed with it, but I don't know if I got things that I shouldn't have, or I quote unquote leveled up or got more stats and stuff than necessary. So when I finished the junkyard mall part, then I went to the skate park, and I don't know, it wasn't as difficult as it should be. I blazed through that. I got to Queen Beatrice, and I beat her pretty easily. I don't know, I just didn't. Her fight, it's cool in that it makes you utilize the bike, because the queen, she's very flashy, you know, and she's got this kind of ego, and she wants to fight you like in this arena, and there's just all kinds of crap going on. You gotta use this half pipe to get up and hit these switches and stuff like that. The concept is cool. I just don't know, I just didn't think it was very fun in the end. I don't know. But besides Queen Beatrice, all the other bosses were absolutely fantastic. I loved one called Silver Ghost. I don't want to like spoil too much, just talking about the bosses, but yeah, like I said, you can start this biome first if you want. That's what I did. And so you learn about Silver Ghost and everything that's going on with her, and her boss fight I just thought was great and had a really cool story to tell. And there's just some X factor to the fight. I don't want to spoil it, but that anyway. So this X factor, it can give you an advantage, and it's just it's just cool. And they did a really good job with Silver Ghost. That's probably my favorite boss in the game. I like the sewer boss. I thought that was a really good one, and then the final boss was kind of cool too. My next pro is that this game is faithful to the source material. I know that might seem silly, but well, we live in an age now where people grab IP, they don't care about it, and they do stuff and change things and upset the fan base, and it can get frustrating, and it's just nice to see that some people care about, you know, IP and canon and things that we like. And so yes, the devs took this game and worked with, you know, a lot of people that were involved in the actual making of the Turbo Kid movie. I'm not certain if they worked with the directors or not. I would imagine they did. I mean, someone can let me know in the comments, but I do know that they worked with Lamato and Jike Dion. Jike Dion being the individual who actually did the comic books for Turbo Kid and was the storyboard artist for the movie. So bringing in the composer and one of the original artists was such a great move, and it just made this game that much more rad. So I appreciate the faithfulness to the source material. So what do I mean when I say faithfulness to the source material? Well, the music is there. More music is there by the same composer, so it sounds cohesive. There's the whole comic book thing that you can collect that Jike Dion did, so that was really cool. The over-the-top gore and viscera when you kill things, like that's all there. The hyper-violence, it's right there. It just feels like the vision and the feel of Turbo Kid the movie worked really well and translated really well into this Metroidvania game. So great job on that. My last pro for Turbo Kid is that its runtime is pretty good. Actually, I say pretty good, but I guess I would say it's more of like it is the golden length of a Metroidvania in my opinion, and that is around the 10-hour mark. Personally, I don't think Metroidvania should be like this huge epic saga, right? I mean, there's a lot of like Metroidvanias out there that are super long. We got Cathedral's huge, Hollow Knight, After Image. Gosh, there's just a bunch. I know, like, what was it? The recent one, Rebel Transmute. That's about a 20-hour long one, right? And these games are fine. I do like to play them, and I enjoy the time I have with them. But when it comes to Metroidvanias, I really like it when they're on the shorter side, right? And so 10 hours, I think, is just absolutely great. I think Ender Lilies is like 8 to 10 hours as well if you're not, speed running, you don't know everything, right? And that's kind of the thing. Like, I like to replay these games, and the shorter, the better, in my opinion. 5 hours, that might be a little too short. But we're looking like 7 to 10. I like 8 to 10. Yeah, that's a pretty solid Metroidvania, in my opinion. Trying to think back, like, I know Hollow Knight, I played that. And I beat that, and I think the first time I beat that took 25 hours, and then when I replayed it immediately afterwards, and so with all of that knowledge, I think I was able to beat it in like 12 hours or something like that. That's a pretty meaty experience still, and I can understand why people would love that. Don't get me wrong, and I do like it, but I don't know. I like my Metroidvanias to be a little bit more succinct than that, but. I'm not going to cry if I get one. Like After Image, right? I was 30 hours into that game and still finding brand new biomes. That game's huge. And I like that game a lot. So yeah, just wrapping it up there. Pro is that Turbo Kid's like 10 hours long or something like that. I think I've seen people beat it in like 4. Of course, you'd have to know the layout and know everything in the game. But first time playing it, expect 10 hours. And I think that's just the golden length right there, boys. All right, let's go into the cons with Turbo Kid. The first con that I have is that it needs more biomes. There are not a lot of biomes in this game. There are 5 that are explorable, and then there's like a hub town, and then maybe some smaller places to the east and west of the hub town. But yeah, not a whole lot of biomes to explore. And I understand why the devs did that. I talk about it in my analysis video, but it has to do with really just kind of trying to make narrative-rich experiences as opposed to like a bigger game with all these different biomes. And what I mean by that is the game, it uses its biomes to tell stories that reinforce the overarching narrative's messaging, yeah? And so to keep that narrative tight, instead of just having like 8 biomes with 8 different stories, they chose to, add some focus to it. It's like, okay, we just have like these 4 biomes, and we're going to really just focus on making the players experience this narrative we're trying to get out there to the world. Largely, I think it was successful, but I can understand why people were like, I would rather have more biomes. And then I think that brings us to the next con. In my opinion, it's a con. It's that the biomes are just absolutely gigantic in this game. And they're so gigantic because there's just so few of them. I would imagine had the devs been like, okay, we're going to have 8 biomes, all of the biomes would be a more respectable, like size. Okay, maybe not respectable, but just smaller, right, in scale than how they are currently. But because they really wanted to focus on the narrative, they're like, you know what? Let's just have 4 really good stories to tell. And we'll use, and I hate to use this word, but to pad the time, we'll just make the 4 biomes large. And so really that's why we end up with just a very little amount of biomes that are just absolutely gigantic. And it's all because, again, they just wanted to focus on this narrative. Now, I could be wrong. I don't think I am, obviously, but you can let me know in the comments, but I'm pretty sure that's what it does. The devs, they were like, okay, we got this narrative. We want to keep it tight. We want to keep it focused. So we're just going to have just a few biomes and make these few biomes we have just large. That way we can have a runtime that people are going to appreciate. Me personally, I'm not a huge fan of absolutely gigantic biomes, but there are probably people out there that absolutely love it. Now I'll say, specifically in Turbo Kid, I didn't mind the biomes too much. They were large and they kind of like went everywhere because like a lot of the biomes were really kind of underground. And so it was just like intricate tunnels, if you will. And so everything felt kind of claustrophobic, but there was enough enemies and enough NPCs in the background doing stuff in the environment to make it not feel so claustrophobic or isolating. But yeah, it did ultimately feel claustrophobic regardless. And just navigating this series of tunnels, just, I don't know, not my favorite thing, but in the end, it works out. It's fine. It makes for interesting exploration. And I say that because this game is so very open, and there are a lot of times you'll be just, moving along, just doing your regular exploration thing and hit like forks in the road, and each fork is viable, right? Like you can go up, you can go down, you can go left, you can go right, and whichever path you choose, you will eventually get to where you need to go, or it could be a dead end with an item or something like that. But there's a lot of times where there's just all kinds of different routes you can take that will still get you to where you want to go. And so you'll have to do some backtracking if you want to actually explore everything that a biome has to offer. And I found myself doing that a lot with Turbo Kid. I'd be exploring and I would finish a biome and actually defeat its boss, and then I'd have to re-enter the biome and explore it a little bit more because there was just so many sections that I had missed. And I missed them because, there's just so many ways to approach how to navigate this to get to the end of the biome. So yeah, that's one of the big things in this game. The biomes are gigantic, man. The next con I have is the fast travel. I did not like the fast travel in this game. It was fine. It worked. It just needed, the fast travel was a waypoint system. It was like teleporting pods, right? You step on the pod or the pad and it teleports you to wherever you want to go. The problem is that there just didn't seem to be enough, teleportation pads or waypoints throughout the game. And so with these biomes being so gigantic and you not having enough like waypoints or teleportation pads to really go where you wanted to go, like there were some times where it's like, okay, I want to do some backtracking. This really just brings us to the next con, but I want to do some backtracking, but it's going to take a long time because there's just so much distance between like any given waypoint that I have to the spot I want to backtrack to. And I always find that so frustrating. Like this game, it has 8,000 million couches in it. These couches are your save points. Like why can't there be, and maybe there is, maybe I didn't find it or something like that, because sometimes games will do that. They'll be like, hey, guess what? Now all your save points are travel points now. I didn't get anything like that in Turbo Kid, but I love when games do. I know like Blasphemous does it eventually in both of its games. But yeah, being able to teleport to these save points or these couches would have been fantastic because there's like 1 billion of them in this game. And it just would have made backtracking and doing some cleanup, to just be that much easier. But because the waypoints were just all over the place and the biomes were just so gigantic, backtracking and cleaning up was just not very appetizing for me. I can imagine because I'll probably replay the game soon because I did like it that much. I would like to play it again, and I bet you the backtracking won't be so bad this time. But I don't know. Like when I first play Metroidvania, and I don't like its backtracking, it's just it kind of hurts to play, and it's just like, you know what? I'm just going to keep moving forward, and if I miss something, I miss something. That's fine. That's kind of how it was with Turbo Kid. Don't get me wrong, I really like Turbo Kid, but just because like the waypoints were just too few and far between, and those biomes were just so big, a lot of the times I didn't want to do any backtracking to find stuff. And this is kind of a backhanded compliment to the game's narrative again, because I liked the narrative so much and I wanted to know what was going to happen next. It was painful for me to go, oh, I'm going to do some backtracking now, and it is going to take a long time, and it just sucks the tension out. It brings the story to a grinding halt, and I get that this is a weird thing to talk about with Metroidvanias, because in Metroidvanias, story is never like priority, right? Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. And so if you have to do some backtracking, it typically doesn't get in the way of the storytelling or the narrative. But for such a narrative-heavy game as Turbo Kid, doing backtracking, it was not. I'm trying to figure out how to really say this. So it's like the backtracking, it was less appetizing because of two factors. One, I wanted to keep moving forward with the narrative, and two, the places were so gigantic, I knew it was going to take so much time to do. And so because that balance wasn't there, I chose to just focus on the narrative as opposed to, cleaning up anything, right? Going backtracking, finding stuff. I don't know, maybe I'm neurotic, maybe I'm wrong. Y'all can let me know in the comments. But that's just how I felt while I was playing it. All right, this is your spoiler warning. We are going to do some spoilers for Turbo Kid now. It's not going to be specific. It's going to be kind of like what we did with 9 Years of Shadows. I just want to take a look at the Kickstarter page and compare it to the final product. So that's what we're going to do now. So potential spoilers. So go to this timestamp to fast travel to my final thoughts on Turbo Kid. All right, here's the Turbo Kid Kickstarter page. This is not going to be like 9 Years of Shadows, because I feel like what Turbo Kid gave us was very close to the product that they promised. And it was more of like, some creative decisions they had to shift around. Again, with 9 Years of Shadow, I felt like they gave us a completely different game. Not so much with Turbo Kid. I think they did a good job with what they promised. But yeah, let's just get into it. So we're going to scroll down here. Okay, so here is the first thing that I'll bring up here. And you can see in the image there, it says concept art. So again, I'm not saying anything negative about Turbo Kid because of this. I just find it interesting. But we have a character here named Alien. I think he was supposed to be like a war vet. I think he was in Vietnam, and he has like a crow or some bird that is supposed to help him out. This character got reskinned and turned into I think Naomi's grandmother in the game. So that's interesting what they were going to try to do with this individual, and that ended up getting scrapped or remade. So that's that. I just thought it was kind of cool. So this is the biggest departure from the final product. This is actually an entire biome that was cut. So this is the Lightning Dome. So when you go to the Lightning Dome, it literally is just like an arena fight with 4 levels to it. You beat all 4 levels, you get the weapon chip, and you're done. You can complete the Lightning Dome in like 20 minutes or less. It's pretty short. But originally, it was going to be not just the Lightning Dome. That was just going to be a part of it. There was actually going to be an old town with some mines, as you can see on the screen. And that character, the gunslinger, he's in the game, but he's just, I don't know, like, I guess like the MC or something like that, or the person who registers people to get into the Lightning Dome and fight. But according to this was supposed to be a boss. So we got ourselves a cut biome and a cut boss, which is super disappointing. But again, I get it. You know, deadlines come and choke some stuff, and then you run out of resources. You know, things happen. But man, I would have loved to have seen this. Here's some more concept art for the mines and the biome that was cut. So there we go with the mines. There's the village. Oh, see, that would have been really cool. There's the arena that ends up becoming the Lightning Dome. So yeah, man, yeah, you hate to see it, but I totally get it. Stuff happens. So another odd change here. We had the Roadkill sisters. They ended up becoming the Whack sisters or something like that. They were going to have, I think, a bigger part in the game, but they got relegated to another position. And I liked them. I thought they were pretty cool still. But yeah, sometimes I just like to wonder, like, man, what were they going to do with them? Here's a character that absolutely isn't even in the game, Shiver. I have no idea who this is. So, man, that sucks. I would have loved to seen Shiver. There's Alien again. Looks like a vulture is the bird that he uses, but got reworked to be Naomi's grandmother. So there's that. Cotton Candy. Cotton Candy actually is in the game. You like save her in the skate park, and not a whole lot is done with Cotton Candy. Like, you save her, she helps you destroy like the GG, which is the name of the drugs, that reserve. Then she gets you out of there, or guides you, and then she's gone until you go to the sewer, and then you see her in the background merge with like goop. Because she talks about trying to find her father, and you learn that her father's the Oozinator or whatever. So yeah, she's in the final product. I don't think she's definitely not utilized how she was supposed to. If you take a look at the description here, it says, "Where does that little whimsical creature come from? Greenish, afraid of light. She now lives under the skate park with her friend and master witch, helping her with her scientific experiments," which is not what happens in the actual finished product. She's a prisoner, and by witch. And Witch is using her to create the GG, which is that drug. So, yeah, they a little left turn on that one. Went from friends to enemies. So, Razor, have no idea who that is. Wasn't in the game. But looks pretty cool. What else we got? Scramblers. Those are the kids in the sewers. There's Witch. I switched her up a little bit. So it says GG Queen's prisoner scientist. So, I think it actually turns out that she's best friends with GG Queen. So that's Beatrice. So it's just funny that we had Cotton Candy, who was supposed to be Witch's friend, who then gets imprisoned in the final product, and the Witch, who is supposed to be the prisoner, actually is best friends with the Queen. So, yeah, stuff happens, man. So, my final thoughts on Turbo Kid. Turbo Kid's a good MV that does a lot of things very well, namely its narrative and atmosphere. And sticking close to the source material served it very well. Its biomes are a little too big, and it could have used more biomes, and it just would have been fantastic had the devs included the biome they cut, but that's the way things go, man. Now, where would I put Turbo Kid on this tier list? I'll be frank with you, I would put it high. I think it's a pretty good game. Would I put it in S? No, I don't think it goes in S. Would I put it in A? I was toying with it. I'm gonna put it up in A real quick, but I was well, that's B. I was toying with it, and I was like, is this an A tier Metroidvania? And I want to say it's really close. It is close to having everything that I think an MV should have to be an A tier, but it's just not there. It's just not there. Now, again, I'm not saying, just because it doesn't hit A tier, it's a bad game. Of course, like I have games like Iconoclast. Look at that. I have that in D. I love that freaking game. I think it's a great game. Just don't think it's a very good Metroidvania. Turbo Kid, I think, is a great game and a good Metroidvania. So I want to put it up higher. I just don't think it's A tier. There's just a lot of things that it would need to improve to get to A. I'm going to drop it down to B. So where would it go in B? B, these are above average, right? These are, you got your average MVs, and that's your C's, and then your B's are the above average ones. I would say that it is above average. I would say that. Mainly because its narrative is just really, really good. And it's not just because its narrative's good. It does a lot of things really, really great, like the power trip it gives you. And I really loved exploring this game. I kept wanting to find more things and keep moving forward. I was like, it got its hooks in me, and I loved it for that. So I think it's a B. Where at in a B? This could be controversial. Let's see. I think it's a higher than a mid B. Oh, is it better than Vigil? Is it better than Vigil? I love Vigil so much. I love Vigil. But its story is incomprehensible, man. Gosh. Like, it does so many things right. But man, that story is just like, bleh. Yeah, I think it's better than Vigil. Is it better than Metroid Dread? Is it better than Metroid Dread? I want to say yes. Yes, I believe it is better than Metroid Dread. And I think that's where I'm going to stop. I want to put it there. And is that a hot take? I don't know. I'm going to have to let you guys tell me, I suppose. But I think that Turbo Kid is better than Metroid Dread. Right above Metroid. I'm not going to say it like excels, but like a lot of things that Turbo Kid does, I think it does better than Metroid Dread, like exploration, for instance. That's number one for me. I know I talk about narrative a lot in this channel, but exploration and wanting to explore and keep moving and find stuff, that's number one for me. Metroid Dread did not do a very good job on that. Of course, this is my opinion, this is my list and stuff like that. But I think a lot of people will agree that, yeah, maybe I don't want to find my 900th missile tank in Metroid games, right? With Turbo Kid, I don't know, there's finding the cartridges and just the story all together and the atmosphere. Just, I don't know. I really, really loved it. I'm still going to place it under Castlevania Portrait of Ruin for now. Maybe that's something I can take a look at later on. But yeah, I think that Turbo Kid is a very good Metroidvania. It's above average. And I wouldn't say it's mid to high B. So there you go. Well, that's Turbo Kid in the books. And that'll do it for episode 3 of the ultimate definitive Metroidvania tier list. I hope you all enjoyed the episode. I really do. And I hope you all don't hate me so much or send too much flame for putting Turbo Kid above Metroid Dread. I know that seems weird, but I feel it in my heart of hearts. If you guys want to contest that, of course, drop it in the comments. Any feedback that you have about anything on this list. I do my best to assess things and take a look at stuff or to replay games if people are really adamant on changing a spot in one of these games. But yeah, let me know what you think. Thank you so much for listening. If you listened this entire time, or if you just jumped to the very end, that's cool too. Hey, nice to see you. I'm glad you're here still. But anyway, that's it. Episode 11 down. See you next month for episode 12. What are the games? No idea. I haven't used the picker yet to pick the new games, but I guess what's the next game that you should be expecting for analysis on? I'll throw it up on the screen here, and then I will talk to y'all later.